Mental health isn't real. Mental health isn't real. It's made up, fabricated, falsified, lies. It's like the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, Santa Claus, God. It's fairy tale. It's just something we made up to have another level of complexity to weigh us down. It's like social media, games, porn. It's bullshit to distract us from the real things we should really be caring about and put energy towards. But no, rather than that, you're feeling burnt out, overwhelmed, and taking mental health days while living in the most abundant period of time ever known to man. You have it pretty good. You've got water, electricity, internet, food. What more could you possibly want? There's someone out there with a way worse life, and it hasn't occurred to him yet to annihilate his existence. But here you are thinking about ending it all. Mental health isn't real, and neither are the illnesses, at least none that I would convince myself to accept for total disregard for uncertainty. Depression is just you feeling sad. You will always be depressed if you have a shitty life. But your life isn't even that bad. Just change it. Stop being lazy. Feelings are now being called illnesses or disorders. Depression, anxiety, don't even get me started on ADHD. These aren't real. See, cancer, diabetes, these are real illnesses. They really matter. Not anxiety. Anxiety can't be seen. It's not like a burnt hand where I can see it and you can see it too. Not to mention, a lot of these mental medicalizations are not properly justified. The mental health industry is medicalizing normality. Medicalization is the assertion that a condition is due to disturbed psychology, a chemical imbalance, or some other bodily defect. But as it relates to mental health and illnesses, just existing is to disturb your psychology and create chemical imbalances in your brain. This medicalization is the inappropriate labeling of a normal condition or normal problem of living as a disease, disorder, or illness, which is what this all seems like. And then there's normality, which is the usual state of affairs in healthy or normal persons. But what the fuck does healthy and normal even mean? Because if you define normal by the average person, no one is really normal. Because if you define normal by the average person, no one is average, at least not absolutely. For example, if I asked you what's the average number of arms, you'd probably say 2, but that's wrong. Some people have 1 or no arms, so 2 is actually above average. Slightly, but still above average. So if you have 2 arms, you're above average. But why does this really matter? Because normality is the inherent qualities and characteristics of most human beings. And how do we measure the most phenotypically when we can't even see it? Mental health isn't real. I won't believe it, and I definitely don't have it. Mental health isn't real. I won't believe it, and I definitely don't have it. Mental health isn't real is nothing original. It's something I've heard a lot before and pondered quite a lot with. I've heard this from families, friends, and sometimes from one of the little voice that lives in my head. I'm African, actually West African to be more precise, and I know from personal experience that most Africans don't give a fuck about your mental health. Actually, neither do Black Americans, Indians, Asians. Actually, for a long time, most people, regardless of race and culture, adopted the notion that mental health isn't real. So you've probably heard something of this manner in the past. It's not until recent times that discussions like this about these issues have been brought and pushed to the public. Mental health and its illnesses alike have become mainstream. It's seen as cool to be depressed or to have anxiety. From how glorified it is in music to how it's seen as a field of art, it's become normalized to have something mentally wrong with you. Now you can debate all day about the hidden agenda for some disorders which seem like medicalizations of normality and the push of mental health to the public when interactions with a company over 154 million times raises funds for mental health initiatives and argue that the end goal being the industry's bottom line. But we're more aware and educated nonetheless. With that awareness comes an individual responsibility to aid one another, especially yourself if you don't feel quote-unquote normal. I feel like normality has to be medicalized in some sense, not in the sense of the inappropriate labeling of a normal condition or normal problem of living as a disease, disorder, or illness, but to know what normal is medically, roughly speaking. Even if we can't truly be normal, we can know what isn't in a sense. Just take a look at the DSM-5 and you realize depression isn't sadness. It is much, much worse. And being closer to the medicalized sense of normal on the spectrum is a sign of adequate health. Even if no one is absolutely average, we have mean, mode, min, and max, and we have individuals that represents those. Social media, games, porn, all have their roles to play. That solely isn't the addition of complexity and distraction to our existence. And even if it did so, it doesn't make them less real. Today, we sometimes do go overboard labeling and seeing sadness as depression in certain cases, and projecting these on young, impressionable children. But at least we recognize this somewhat. And while we may not be advanced enough to have the complete philosophical or chemical cure, we are making progress. Mental health isn't real, because it's easier to live that way, except it's not. Similar to just how it's easier to live your life like your actions have no inherent consequences, the thrill is short and the repercussions are dire, because it's just not true. Pushing things aside or plainly ignoring them because of their inherent complexity problems doesn't make them less real. The fact that all your senses see, smell, hear, taste, and touch cannot comprehend the complexity means mental health isn't real, at least not in the traditional sense. To explain what I mean, we have to look at neurotic, a word that has been used since the 1700s to describe mental, emotional, or physical reactions that are drastic and irrational. At its root, a neurotic behavior is an automatic, unconscious effort to manage deep anxiety. The distinction of mental, emotional, and physical is something important because they are all related, but I believe mental health isn't real because it's one of the things that are surreal, for lack of a better word. A sufficient word is meta-real. Mental health isn't real, it's meta-real. And this is not an excuse to enable your unhealthy mental state. Please get help. There are a lot of things too real and overwhelmingly complex for us to digest as simply what they are in their true form, such as God, superheroes, and fairy tales, just like the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, and Santa Claus. Their plane of existence doesn't deem them less real, which is further proven by the fact that your senses see, smell, hear, taste, and touch are affected by your mental health, even if your mental health cannot be fully or truly located or solely comprehended by these senses. You may not be able to see anxiety and depression like a burnt hand, but that doesn't make it not real. You feel the pain and despair, and in those moments, nothing could possibly be more real to you. Mental health isn't real, but you are. You not being able to get out of bed is real. So is your anxiety. You being depressed for seemingly no reason is real, and so are your suicidal thoughts. And if you're feeling like this, please get help. Mental health isn't real isn't a good coping mechanism. It's dismissive, toxic, and downright dangerous to your overall health. This thinking doesn't make anyone feel or be better, and eventually you will realize it doesn't make mental health less true because you choose to believe that mental health isn't real.